Well, it's a good thing we're back home because we're all dressed up, but we've got nowhere to go.
Let's get down to business. Hey guys, welcome to Whisky Business. I'm Evan.
I'm Levi.
And we're doing a bit of a special episode today. We're doing our first double episode in a while because we've got our lovely Starward cocktail range, which is just absolutely amazing. Now, we did the Starward twofold last week. You guys might think we're being a bit favoritist staying in Melbourne, but you know what? Shut up.
It's our show, we'll do what we like.
Exactly. Unless you guys comment and tell us you want something different. But none of you have been doing that yet.
Probably do what you want. So
Absolutely.
That's fine.
So we're really, really excited to do this. These are a new range that Starward started coming out with about last year or so.
Yeah, earlier this year, I think, but yeah, not that long ago. Pretty fresh.
Not that long ago, pretty fresh. It's an idea where they make pre-made cocktails in a bottle for you to just enjoy at home, which is good. We are starting off with the old-fashioned. So that's Starward's old-fashioned in a bottle.
The new old-fashioned.
New old-fashioned.
Absolutely.
Which is a 32% alcohol volume. It's made with Angostura orange bitters, teaspoon of syrup, some cinnamon bourbon, and garnished with orange peel. And you should generally serve it on ice, as with any cocktail.
That's right, yeah. So that's what you would do if you were making an old-fashioned at home, and you had to get all those ingredients and mix them all up and muddy them and put them in a little mortar and pestle and put them into a glass. Starward's made it super easy for you. It's just in one simple bottle. And the only real difference between a normal old-fashioned you have at a bar versus here is that one is with bourbon and we obviously have it with Scotch whisky. So.
And this uses Starward's twofolds generally, which we reviewed last week. So it may be twofold. Sometimes they do supplement with some other whiskies just to make sure the flavor's right as well. So it all comes down to taste and how well it tastes and sort of stuff. So all you have to do is buy a bottle, pour it over glass, fancy orange peel.
Fancy orange peel and smoking jackets are completely optional, but we recommend them.
We recommend
them. Feel kind of
absolutely.
fancy. Trying to drink that with the orange peel right there. It's awkward. It's really, really nice. My wife loves a cocktail, as Evan well knows, being his sister. I generally don't love a cocktail. I've told the story before that the reason that I got into drinking whiskey was a trip over to Hong Kong where I wound up drinking whiskey sours just about every night. Didn't realise until I stopped having the sour part of the whiskey sour that whiskey actually doesn't taste anything like whiskey sour.
No.
That I think is really, really good because it's not too sweet.
No.
You can absolutely taste the whiskey flavour in there. And all
you get the sugar syrup, you get the Angostura bitters, just that little hint of it.
Yep.
Definitely worth actually chucking an orange slice in there because it does make a hell of a lot of difference, that little brightness from the citrus.
Well, I think that's probably the best thing that it's got going for it is you do get the wonderful flavour of a beautiful whiskey, which the Starward Twofold is, and the Starward Nova is, and all of the Solera, all the Starwards are fantastic. But also just kind of round it off a little bit. So that would make sense. And I guess being that I was the person that started drinking cocktails to drink whiskey specifically sort of for that purpose, and that's how it worked, makes sense that you would probably start on a cocktail that uses whiskey as the base. Wonderful flavour though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the big thing for me is with cocktails, usually they're just way too sweet. And you have one or you have two and you're like, I might have a sugar headache. I'm a little bit too old to be drinking out of a really fancy glass with a parasol in there. Old fashions and the next one that we'll review generally come in a highball glass. They don't look ridiculous. No. They're not super expensive as a cocktail either. We'll talk about the price point of this one in a minute, but that's just a really good flavour. There's not a lot to talk about in terms of whiskey.
No, there's not a lot of complexity to the whiskey. It really just is an old fashioned. So if you've had an old fashioned in a bar, like, we're not saying this is as good as, if not better. It's all dependent on what whiskey is being used in a bar
and the quality, especially with cocktails, the quality of the bartender,
exactly, how well good they are at mixing and sort of stuff like that.
And it's a real art being a cocktail bartender.
Absolutely. But for me, it's like, for just sitting at home, if you want a cocktail, my God, it's just so much easier keeping a bottle of this around rather than mixing it all yourself.
And we did have the idea that we were going to do a side-by-side comparison of the Starward Old Fashioned versus the real Old Fashioned, and I think we sort of looked into it and went, how are we going to shoot it? Logistically, how do we make it on here?
Maybe we'll do that in a future episode if you guys are kind enough to maybe, donate some money or something. We'll set up a Patreon.
But I think on top of that, like the whole appeal of the way that Starward has done it, the price point that it has, which we will talk about, it's really simple, it's really easy, it's really delicious. You don't need to worry about it too much. It's great for entertaining because you can have people over. I probably wouldn't mix it with anything. You could probably put just a dash of soda water in there if you like to have
wanted to. I think
cocktails.
For me, I think this is the way you would serve it. Big ice cube and a slice of orange. That orange alone just sitting in there is giving you a wonderful brightness, some extra sugar in there, especially for people who aren't gigantic fans of whiskey.
Yep.
This is a great way to kind of get them into what a whiskey is going to be like with that extra sweetness.
Well, that's right. And if you talk about the whiskey profile of it, and we did say there's not a huge amount of whiskey flavour in there, but there's enough. There's just a little bit of a hint in there that you know that there's a whiskey in there. There's no questioning that.
You really get no fire whatsoever.
No,
that's the point of a cocktail.
The
point of a cocktail is to hide the alcohol content,
yeah,
which this does wonderfully.
I think what it manages to do is it gives you just a little bit of that whiskey flavour, so you do get sort of the charring, you do get a little bit of smokiness and some of the whiskey flavours in there. The Starward, as we talked about when we reviewed the twofold, it's not a peaty whiskey. It's not a sort of traditional whiskey flavour whiskey. It is quite sweet, but it does have some really beautiful whiskey profile in there. That also has it. It's just in a cocktail where it's a little bit sweeter, a little bit easier to drink. So I started drinking whiskey off of cocktails. That's not a bad way to do it either.
Now the question is, are we going to rate these?
I think we have to.
We have to. Yeah. Well, let's talk price point. This is actually the grand price of $50.
It's outrageous.
It's outrageous. $50 for a 500ml bottle, which is probably going to give you a good
20 odd drinks.
Yeah, 20 odd old fashions, especially if you're using a jigger or something. Just a really great thing. Amazing in summer or autumn, I would say. That's where you really would love to have something like that, especially with that sweetness and sort of stuff like that.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I was in Dan Murphy's yesterday and I got to talking to the whiskey guy who was going to do a new display for his whiskey. And when I told him that I did a whiskey channel, he actually started asking for my opinion on what he should put up as a summer whiskey. And I'm just like, absolutely put this on there. That lovely sweetness will do. If you're not going to do that, Starward twofold. Both would be amazing drinks to have in summer. But for me, a bottle of this around some ice cubes, because this is something you absolutely want to have on ice.
100%.
You really need that kind of chilled.
Look, drink it however you drink it. We're advocates for that. But this is just made to be drunk on ice. It's made to be drunk at a barbecue. It's made to be drunk when you're entertaining.
Yeah,
it's just really, really good. It's good fun, and
you can imagine
for
drinking something like this, warm Melbourne night, with a barbecue going just as the sun's setting. Oh, we need to do that.
Melbourne rooftop bars
done.
Yes, were built.
They were built like Starward cocktails built for Melbourne rooftop bars. Absolutely.
Melbourne whiskey, Melbourne premixed. It makes sense.
If I'm going to rate that,
it's pretty hard to rate it against anything else, and it's not really a whiskey. So I guess. I'd just do it on touch and feel, I suppose.
9.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
I'm not quite willing to give it a 10, but also I really suggest you guys go out and have some because it's amazing.
It's awesome for $50, and I don't think I've seen this at a bar done as that you can just buy a glass of that. But
no, because they would want you paying the $20-25 for a cocktail.
That's right, that they can mix themselves.
This really is something you just have sitting at home, and at $50 for a bottle, you're really not going to go wrong with something like that at home.
Yeah, and I guess the only thing that we could do is, in terms of a comparison, would probably be to compare it to having an old-fashioned at a bar, which is with bourbon and generally not with scotch. So it's probably a little bit different, but I don't think you lose a great deal. You lose the theatre of someone making a cocktail.
I feel with doing bourbon, it might just be a touch too sweet.
Yeah, a bit sweeter, it would be.
Because that's the only thing. I feel that the balance between the whiskey and the sugar syrup in this just is really, really nice, and it's not gonna be. It's not overpowering or anything like that.
You could have 3 or 4 of those quite comfortably and not feel as though you've had 3 or 4.
And if you are going to do that, don't drive afterwards, please.
We advocate for responsible drinking.
We advocate for responsible drinking at someone's home while you're filming a review channel.
Always. 9 out of 10 and $50, and let's do the next one.
Absolutely.
So it's time for the second of the Starward new cocktail range, pardon me. And Evan, what have we got now?
So this time we've got the Red Manhattan. Now, Manhattan is actually one of my absolute favourite cocktails. I love a good Manhattan. I used to make them for myself as well, generally using Canadian Club or something like that, just because it has that nice sweetness into it. So generally you would make that with a The basic way is just a rye whiskey or a bourbon mixed with a sweet vermouth, finished off with some Angostura bitters, and then adding in a maraschino cherry. Sometimes you can make them with red wine, maraschino liqueur, and generally you want to serve them on ice as well. That's the sort of thing you're doing there. So once again, much like the old fashioned, Starward Twofold is used as the base. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Neither.
It's a good whiskey. I think we talked through all the stuff we need to last time, so let's go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Fancy glasses, fancy maraschino cherry.
Oh,
It's delicious.
so good.
That has a real, obviously it's very different to an old fashioned anyway, but that's kind of your real sort of old school 20s jazz bar.
Yeah, not so sweet anymore. The bitters definitely come through and sort of stuff. As much as we say there's sweet vermouth isn't actually that sweet.
No.
To anyone who's ever tried it. Like, it is definitely sweeter than standard vermouth, but it's really there as an accompaniment. It's not there to take away from the flavour of the whiskey. So you get a bit more of the whiskey flavours in
Definitely. That's a more sort of, again, the traditional cocktail thing. That cocktails now are obviously very sweet and they're generally very colourful, and there's parasols. If you look at cocktails from the 1920s, 1930s, when they were booming, it was literally like, let's throw 15 different types of alcohol in.
It was alcohol mixed with more alcohol.
Yeah.
The best way to make a cocktail. Except for a Long Island iced tea.
Well, but you also, the classic one for me is a lot of people are like, I want to have a martini, it looks so fancy, and you have a martini, it's like having rocket fuel.
Yeah,
That's what it tastes like.
To be honest though, I love a martini.
Martinis are great.
Martinis are
Manhattan's a sort of back bit, but like that's what I'm saying. They're
comes
in that
from the
same
same
mold.
comes from the same mold. We have the martini, the Manhattan, the Martinez, which I believe was a different type. There were a lot of where you would just take an alcohol, mix it with vermouth, and then just add something to kind of ramp up the flavour.
Well, interestingly enough, we have, you can't quite see it, but our little board here is from Raffles in Singapore, where the Singapore Sling was invented. And if you go to Raffles, even if you go to most bars, you can get a Singapore Sling now versus Singapore Sling as it was invented 100 odd years ago. Singapore Sling from 100 years ago is like rocket fuel, and that's what cocktails used to be. This has probably got a little bit more of that in it. It does taste a lot more alcoholic. It's a little bit harsher on the front end, but it's a beautiful flavour.
Still wonderfully balanced.
Yeah,
like, still, you really get a little bit more of that Starward fruitiness, especially from the Twofold, which is then amped up by the sweet vermouth as well. I don't know if they added any red wine to this. Let's find out.
I think they did. I'm happy to be told.
It's a red wine vermouth.
Oh, there you
so
go.
not quite a sweet vermouth, but a red wine vermouth, which is super interesting. I've gone for the maraschino, have we?
I do love the maraschino cherry.
It's great.
As we've said with Starward, they do really cool stuff. They do very different stuff. The old-fashioned versus the red Manhattan, very, very different.
Very, very different.
Obviously, both whiskey-based cocktails, and you can get the whiskey flavour from both. I think the difference is if you're a bit more of a dyed-in-the-wool whiskey drinker and you probably enjoy the alcohol flavour profile a little bit more, the red Manhattan's
You would definitely go with the red Manhattan. Once again, same price, $50, which is ridiculous.
Insane.
But actually ticks under the old-fashioned in terms of alcohol content. So 30 versus 32%.
Which is surprising.
But I think, once again, like a standard cocktail,
Yeah.
it gets balanced out with the sweetness, so you don't understand how alcoholic something is that you're drinking.
I think
the Manhattan, you're drinking whiskey.
Yeah, correct. I was going to say, I think in really, really simple terms, the old-fashioned is sweeter, the red Manhattan is not as sweet, so you're going to knock back more of the old-fashioned really quickly, whereas these you're probably going to sit on a little
This is something you definitely want to sit on. I don't know if I would go with the big ice cube or whether I'd go some smaller ones.
I actually think smaller ice cubes would probably
I
go
think
a little
smaller.
bit better for this, to be honest.
Yeah, but
It waters
absolutely,
down a little
guys.
quicker and
To get some maraschino cherries, it really does add a lovely syrupy sweetness to the drink. Plus, having an alcohol-soaked maraschino cherry,
Amazing.
nothing like it.
Fantastic.
If you're in Australia, maraschino cherry is generally available from gourmet supermarkets and stuff. But if you can't be bothered, Dan sell them, which is great. Go to Dan's for all of this, which is great.
Well, I think that this is probably the coolest thing, I think at least, about the Starward premixed cocktail range is that if you are on your way to a barbecue, you would probably be stopping off at Dan's anyway, and you would be grabbing yourself a slab of beer or maybe a bottle of wine or whatever it might be. Something a little bit different, something cool, a cool little talking point, but also wonderful to drink.
Yeah.
Grab a couple of those, chuck them in the fridge when you get there.
To be honest, $10 more than a slab, generally. Depending on what you're buying.
Depending on the slab, yeah. If you're going for something boutique, it could be $20 cheaper than a slab.
A bit more than a wine, absolutely, but at the same time, definitely a bit more of a talking point over a bottle of wine.
And I think in truth, if you have that, you're probably not going to drink the whole thing out of barbecue.
No.
I mean, well, fair play to you if you do, but you're going to finish a bottle of wine. I think that you're probably going to be able to take, half of it home.
Absolutely. You'll be able to share it around and then take it home with you, unless you're one of those weird people who leaves alcohol at a pub. Actually, no, I'm one of those weird people.
That's not weird.
No, that's not
Everybody
weird.
does
That's
that.
classic.
I'm probably going to take, if I take that,
if you took it home,
if I take that to a party, though, I'm probably taking it home.
To be honest, I'd be the same. When it comes to like beer, wine, or anything, I'm happy to leave it there.
Yeah.
When it comes to whiskey, no, I'm taking that shit with me, boy. I think that's the first time we've sworn on this channel, but it's okay.
No, I swear all the time. That's so good.
That's so good.
Yeah, we'll do the wrap up, but scoring, I think it's the same. It's a 9.
I think it's a 9.
Yeah.
I think for me, the Manhattan would probably be a bit more of a winter drink.
Well, here's the question, right?
Yeah.
They're both sitting there. You're going to a barbecue, or whatever it might be. Which one are you going to pick?
Depends on the time of the year.
I agree.
If it's a summer barbecue, I'm absolutely taking the old fashioned with me. That sweetness is great. If I'm going for like a winter indoor potluck meal, I'm taking the Manhattan.
Yep.
Because I think sitting by a fire, having some nice warm food when it's cold outside, having a nice Manhattan sitting in your glass with a maraschino cherry, oof, nothing like it.
Well, I think this probably speaks to, and we'll tell the story of the way that we bought these. We both love them. Did we buy the Whiskey One?
Whiskey One and Fire.
Whiskey One and Fire, when we were at Whiskey One and Fire, and we had to sort of do a bit of a rock, paper, scissors off to decide which one we were going to buy. And in the end, I went, well, let's be really honest about this. I'm a summer guy. I'm always outside when it's hot. I'm out for a run. I'm down at the beach. The old fashioned's definitely going to be for me. You're more of a winter guy, more of a homebody, like rich meals. So you're like, I'm going to get the red Manhattan.
Absolutely.
And it made perfect sense. And
it made perfect sense because we also knew we were going to share it with each other.
That's true. Yeah. It's not like you're going to get drunk all that much outside of that forum. But I think for that, you can. The really cool thing that they've done here is that they've got. I think they've got 2. They might be bringing out more. Who knows? We don't know.
I would love to see them bring. I would love to see them do a whiskey sour.
I'd love
version. That would be absolutely amazing.
The only thing is, with a whiskey sour, some of the fresh ingredients, the egg whites and other bits and pieces, I don't know how you make that work within a premix. I'm sure they'd figure
out a way. Or if not, you get most of it and then you have to do the rest yourself.
Yeah, that could work too.
At the same time, I could see them figuring out a way to do that, to have that same sort of creaminess without needing the...
They probably can, and you would know this very well. The difference between a good whiskey sour and a bad whiskey sour is enormous.
Absolutely.
It makes such a difference.
It's the same with a good old-fashioned and a bad old-fashioned, a good Manhattan and a bad Manhattan.
Yeah.
Where you go, you're going to experience good cocktails versus bad cocktails, which comes down to, as we said while we were reviewing the old-fashioned, what alcohol's used, the bartender, like
what
the ingredients and sort of stuff like that. Like... If they put in a little bit too much Angostura bitters, that can just throw off an entire cocktail. Sometimes even the type of ice can actually ruin it. Like I think we did make a mistake using a big ice cube on that one, but we know that for next time. That's the thing.
It's all about learning.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess they've got 2 at the moment. They might be doing more. We've got plenty of suggestions. Starward, if you're listening, please, by all means, bring us in for a consulting session.
Absolutely.
We'd be happy to do it.
We would love to do that.
But the 2 that they've got appeal to not just sort of a very broad base, but they've also got, specifically, this would probably be for you as a person that likes that kind of cocktail, and then this one's very...
But once again, just either one you go with, whether you go with one, the other, or both, having them sitting at home to just have a pre-made cocktail for just a night in with people, or going out to a barbecue or something, at $50 a bottle, you can't really go wrong there.
Yeah.
But still, like, if you wanted to try it, as we said in the last episode, the Starward...
Christmas pop-up
there is still there for another few weeks until December 30th. So please,
Distillery as well.
Starward Distillery if you wanted to go there.
I think it'd be fair to say trying to find that as a I want to pay $15 for a glass somewhere. I don't know where it's done. I've not seen it anywhere. We've certainly seen the 2 folds in the Nova with this in Solera everywhere.
And even going to Dan, see if they're doing a tasting as well heading into summer. Like, I think is the way to go. But other than that, I don't think you guys are going to go wrong with taking either one of these or both, because they're going to be just a fantastic drink to have. Like, they're going to be a fantastic thing to share with people as well, which is, once again, the most important thing when you're drinking this kind of stuff.
100%. Yeah. Well done, Starward.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. We've had an absolute ball. It's always fun having a couple of cocktails, chucking on a nice jacket, and getting dressed up for the occasion. Starward, great. As we said, get both. They're fantastic. You're not going to go wrong. What do we have coming up next weekend?
So we are staying in Australia, and we are heading very, very far west to the most isolated city in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
This is cool.
Did you know that about Perth?
I didn't know that.
So we're heading over to Perth. So it's the most isolated capital city in a country.
Wow.
Because of how far away it is from everything. To check out a favourite of ours that we tried earlier in the year. So we hope to see you guys Monday, 5 p.m. As always, that's when we're going to be here. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you'd like to see us do. And if it's affordable enough, we definitely will go out and buy a bottle.
100%.
Other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. And
as always, make sure to keep your business whiskey. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.